When it comes to viewing and accessing your photographs, you have a few different options. You can use a system tool like a Finder or Explorer window, or you can also use Adobe Bridge. And the advantage of working with Adobe Bridge is ease of use and really great and big previews. So here, I want to provide you with a little bit of a primer on how you can use this tool. In particular, we'll focus in on how we can view and preview our photographs. We'll talk about how we can rate, rank, and filter our images. And last but not least, we'll look at how we can open our files from Adobe Bridge and send them over to Photoshop. All right, well, after you have downloaded and installed Adobe Bridge, the first step is to navigate to a folder. You can do that in the Folders panel. And here I'll go ahead and select the O1 Photoshop folder. Inside of this, we have two subfolders. To navigate to the images inside of a subfolder, simply double-click on it to open it up, or you can just click on the folder name over here on the left in the Folders panel. Next, we have the Content panel. Inside of the Content panel, we have the image, the file name down below, and we have these in little thumbnails. We can click on a thumbnail and we'll see a larger preview over here in the Preview panel. Now, if we want to change the size of the thumbnails or of our preview, we can do that. First, let's talk about the thumbnails. If the thumbnails are too big or too small, you can go down to the base of the interface here, and you can click and drag this to the right to make those thumbnails bigger, drag it to the left to make them smaller. Now, what about the preview? Well, in order to change the preview size, we actually need to change the entire panel. To do that, you just hover over the dividing line there. You notice that the cursor will change, and then you can click and drag this to the left or to the right in order to increase or decrease the size of that area. We can do this with the other panel areas as well. Hover over this dividing line, and I can drag up or down in order to allocate more or less space to a certain area of the interface. All right, well, here we have one image, Italy 01. Well, I want to see another image. How do we do that? Well, you can obviously click on the photograph in order to view these files, or you can also use your arrow keys. Here I'm tapping the left arrow key. This allows me to move backwards through my set of photographs, or if you press the right arrow key, it allows you to move forwards. All right, well, let's navigate to another folder and talk about how we can zoom in on an image. Here I have some photographs I captured of some family friends, a mother and daughter. And as I use my right arrow key to navigate through the images, I arrive at an image and I'm not sure if it's sharp. I want to zoom in on this file. How can we do that? Well, if you position your cursor over the image, you notice that an icon shows up, which is a magnifying glass. If you click, it will then show you what's called a loop, and you can move this around, and you can use this in order to check for detail or sharpness in a photograph. When you're ready to get rid of the loop, just click again, and that will then remove the loop from your view. Now, let's say that after you've zoomed in on the image, you want to allocate even more space. I mean, you want a full screen view of your photographs. Well, how can you do that? It's actually really simple. Just tap the spacebar key on your keyboard and it will go to full screen mode. Next, you can use your arrow keys. Here, I'll tap the left arrow key to move backwards through the set of photographs or the right arrow key in order to move forwards. When we're ready to exit out of full screen mode, all you have to do is just tap the spacebar key once again. All right, well, let's go back to the Italy photographs and let's talk about the next topic of rating, ranking, and filtering our photographs. Now, often what will happen is we'll have a folder with a lot of images. Some of them are keepers and some of them aren't. So what you can do in Adobe Bridge is you can label your images. To do that, select a photograph, go to the Label pull-down menu, and then you can add a star rating. Here, I'll give this one a 4-star rating because I like that photograph. We can also do this by way of a shortcut. You'll notice that the shortcuts are listed right here. On a Mac, that's Command 1 through 5. On Windows, that's Control 1 through 5. You really want to write those down because it's pretty tedious to select an image and then go here and then add the star rating, as you can see. So rather than doing that, we can use those shortcuts, and I'll just go ahead and add a rating to some of these photographs. And the reason I'm doing this is to show you how we can begin to filter our images. All right, once we've made it through the set of photographs, we want to go over to the Filter panel. In the Filter panel, there's an area for our ratings. And here we've been talking about star ratings. If I want to see the images which have a 4-star rating, that's my top rating for this set. This will then show me my favorite photographs in the set. Now, it hasn't deleted or removed the other image. It's just not showing those to me right now. If I want to see the images with a 3-star rating, we'll just click on that as well. Want 2 as well? Well, now there it is. Whenever you want to turn off this filtering, well, you just click in that area for that value, and then it will then turn off that particular view. All right, well, now that we've talked about how we can view and preview our photographs, and we've looked at how we can rate, rank, and filter, the next step is to talk about opening our files. Well, let's say that we want to open this image right here. How can we do that? Well, there are a couple of methods. One is to double-click on the file. This will send it over to Photoshop, and there we could continue our workflow. Now, double-clicking works when we're working with a JPEG, a TIFF, or a PSD. When it's a RAW file, you'll see that something a little bit different happens, and I'll talk about that in a moment. Another method for opening is to select the image and go to the File pull-down menu and choose Open. So here I'll go ahead and click on Open, and this again will open the image inside of Photoshop. All right, well, let's go to our folder where we have some raw images. That's this one right here. And what I want to do is open up one of these raw files. Now, a raw file has to do with the way that you capture the image on camera. So here I have all of the data. It's a raw file. It's non-destructive. If I double-click this or go to File Open, what will happen is rather than going to Photoshop right away, it will first stop at Adobe Camera Raw. We haven't talked about Adobe Camera Raw, but we will later. Here we have some controls. For example, if I want to increase my contrast or maybe brighten up the image a little bit, I can do that. Then after we've finished whatever our Camera Raw workflow is, the next step is to click Open Image. What will happen is it will apply all of those Camera Raw settings to the image, and it will send it over to Photoshop so that we can then continue our workflow.